Good morning, Kalind bhai.
Good morning, Harish bhai.
We heard that you started something called lab, breath lab, and I love to know because we know you so long, and I love to know what that is, how it can work, and what you need to join that lab. Any instrument, any material, anything. Please explain to me so I can have more information so I can join the lab.
Thank you, Harish bhai, for asking a very important question. Breath lab, actually, laboratory is something where you do experiments, right?
Right.
And when you experiment means you need certain chemicals and things, and they get mixed up, and then some either heating is done, cooling is done, wetting or drying, whatever is happening, any of the processes happen, and any of the process happens, then there is a little change in whatever material you are handling in the lab. Maybe you are going to make something in the laboratory. We used to, when we were growing up in the science lab, we wanted to make, I remember, shoe polish. Initially, I made some shoe polish. When you were in school, you probably made that too.
Right.
But things like that, from charcoal, we made it. But example is like that. So our body is like laboratory. The whole concept about breath lab is our body is like laboratory.
Right.
Um, in the laboratory, when the material goes in, for example, we eat something, the food goes in, it has got protein, carbohydrates, whatever, and whatever is broken down, it's processed by
Right.
the lab itself, lab, or in this case, body. And then whatever material is good for it, it will take it. There is some that is not good, it will not accept it and throw it out, or changes happen in the material itself, whatever is being ingested, in this case food, where I gave example about the food. um, Same thing happens in breath. The air where we breathe, that gets processed in the laboratory fashion. So I designed that as a laboratory because does the laboratory have, like, for example, you go to an actual laboratory entrance and everything, right? So you open up and you go in. There are, so what, rooms and things like that. Have
Right.
you been to a laboratory like that?
Yeah, I worked in the lab too.
You work in the lab, yeah. So it is an entrance, and then door is there. Then you go in, and then there is a little area. You sit there and all, and then you go into the room where equipment is there, and whatever process is going to happen. Does the lab create some waste products sometimes when you have,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When I
and
put chemicals and they are too mixed, then always
chemical, and so they have to get rid of it.
get rid
And
of.
then is there a controller for the lab?
Yeah, to an extent, there is a control for the
Yeah,
lab.
the controller, and their light switches and cables go all the way and all that. They handle. How about the atmosphere temperature and all that?
Yeah, that has to be maintained because there are
Control.
certain chemicals has to maintain a certain temperature.
Yeah, exactly. And then when the lab produces some, let's say, produce a material, then what happens? That material goes to places which need it, right? Whatever, supposing
Right.
you're a pharmaceutical, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So when you create that whatever medication you create, you have to give it to people
Right. To
who can use,
purification and
who can use it.
use it. Right.
So the whole idea is the user base is important, right?
Right.
You
Absolutely.
have to control that too, how much they use and all. Is that right?
Right.
If they require more, you give it more.
Yeah. Reactions. Right.
They ask for more, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Guess what? Our breathing is exactly like that. Our breath is exactly like that. So when we breathe in, the air goes in, either it's clean or dirty or whatever that is, breath. Then we enter, the entry gate is our nose chamber, for example. So that is a cleaning area. You have to have a cleaner compounds, whatever you take in. You cannot have some impurities coming in. Whatever amount, whatever you take in has to be pure. Puring, then humidifying. This is humidifying, and also temperature control. Whatever goes in, temperature control. So everything happens in the gate entry. They also given an alternate gate in case the main gate is not working. The delivery has to happen. If the main gate is locked, you have to have an alternate gate. So they got alternate gate. But then when it goes in, some people can announce. There's an announcing area here. Can can announce, oh, coming in, coming in. And then we have a little area where we call it gas exchange chamber, the lungs.
Lungs.
And I call it gas exchange chamber because you get the oxygen, then all the products like byproducts like carbon dioxide can come out and get eliminated, just like what we talked about in the lab. And then whatever oxygen, let's say the production oxygen is absorbed. In your case, for example, medications and drugs you create has to be sent everywhere so people use it. In this case, the oxygen has to be traveling everywhere, the brain, to the heart, to the kidneys, everywhere. And if they demand more, what do you think the lab will do? Lab has to provide more.
Produce more.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
provide more. So now this laboratory, that's why I call this active laboratory. Breath lab is an active laboratory. But why the concept of the lab? Because there is a lab director. You are a director, right?
Right.
You are a lab director. So what does the director do?
To control the process.
Control the process. Yeah, exactly. And so process all the controls, all these areas can be controlled by a director. In our case, I established this concept because breath lab, you as a person, you are the director. Normally, the breathing can go on without you being conscious because it's a subconscious thing. It happens in the lower part of the brain. Even the person who is not conscious can continue breathing even on a machine.
Right.
But when you are conscious, you can take control of all the processes. Otherwise, it can process can go on. You can have somebody say a lab director is gone to sleep, and there's a night shift working. You have established the process, and the process can go on in the night too.
Right. If you
So
control.
that can happen. But when you come in the morning and say, "Hey, wait a minute, you didn't do it well." In our case, a snoring occurred, or you had a problem with, you stop breathing. We call it sleep apnea, by the way. You know
Right.
that part. If something happened by morning, you say, wait a minute, the lab director comes in, I can control this. So therefore, when we work with breath laboratory, you are the director. So everybody who works with us, practices these techniques with us of breathing, adjusting the air, how much is efficiency of laboratory and all that. It's a laboratory. And it's your experiment. What else do? You take notes. In laboratory, you maintain a log about observations. So we also make sure that we maintain some observations and how to adjust the process and whatever. And it all helps whom? You.
Right.
You as a person who goes through the breath laboratory, who practices this. So this is the basic concept behind which the whole breath laboratory has been, breath lab and breath lab practice group that we are talking about have been created. So I hope this is clear. Any questions? Any other questions you have?
Yeah, because usually when I work in the lab, there are lots of instrumentation is needed.
Aye.
There are lots of chemicals or raw material is needed. So is there, what's the, and then there's a time process, how long it takes. So what we need in lab, because we name that as a breath lab. So do we need any instrumentations or any time frames and whatnot?
Very good question. Excellent question. So, in terms of timing, we have inhalation, exhalation, and holding breath up and top and below. I mean, after all, there are only four things that we do: take the air in, take the air out, maybe stop after taking in, or stop after taking breathing out. Only four things: how much you take, so those are the kind of observations, and those are the kind of the equipment really needed is you yourself, and you're the laboratory, and you can adjust. The observations are important about how, and then how you feel about it. For example, breathlessness, a short of breath, so awareness of these things and noting this down, that is the biggest equipment we need. Person has to be aware of it. And also mind also say, what do you want to achieve? You want to achieve good oxygenation. What do you want to achieve? Deep breath. What do you want to do? So the laboratory director sets that whole parameter. Then the equipment part, we do highly recommend nowadays an oximeter is available. And use of an oximeter is highly recommended. An oximeter is very simple. It's one of those things that goes on the finger, and everybody knows about this. It gives you the oxygen level and also heart rate. Why is that helpful? Because we talked about the cable. There are cable, for example, in body there are nerves. We talked about cable that control the electricity and all that. In body there are nerves, vagus nerve and things like that. They all cable function also can be judged through this. So this equipment is highly recommended
The
to
measurement,
that
the process, measurement process.
measurement process. And the timer is, you mentioned timing, so timer is very simple. That's available on any iPhone or phone or a watch or timer, timing clock or whatever, stopwatch, for example. That's the equipment.
So how do I like it? I love the idea. How do I join the breath lab?
Well, we have a ongoing Wednesday meeting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have a Zoom that we announced that on WhatsApp as well. Announced that on our Facebook also. So that's free, open for everybody, and the ID there is very simple. It's 267-278-1054. That's again, I'll repeat, 267-278-1054, and the password is welcome. So people can join the Zoom. We will be streaming it also on Facebook now, and possibly later on in YouTube as well. So people can join and learn what the practices are, and then going further, we have a breath clinic. So I guess some people who have been exposed to breath clinic, and I guess if you have any information, if you have practice, I guess you have done a couple of times. You have been there for breath clinics. So if you want to share, you're welcome to share.
Yeah, the clinic is really, really helpful thing for people who have a respiration problems or even with a routine health. Yes, it do help. And I still have one more question. I have lots of friends overseas, like in India and UK. Can they join the groups or clinic lab and all other things, or it is only meant for US residents?
No, we tried to arrange the universal timing. Unfortunately, not on the Wednesday. It's not a universal time. It's 5 p.m. So in some locations in the world, maybe a little different timings. But we do have for the breath clinic, the timings are appropriate. And one of the things we do want to do is we have a few people who are getting group leaders or practice leaders who know how to lead these things, and we are open to starting newer breath labs in other areas of the world if there are people who want to lead that and help people in their own community. So that's open.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I mean, and I'm going to pass it to see any of my friends overseas are interested becoming a group leader and see if they can spread the good health messages. It's good for us, good for society. Good job you are doing. We are very proud of you for your efforts.
Thank you very much, Harish Bhai. And we invite everybody to check this video. If you have any kind of questions, please let us know, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you very much, Kalind. Thank you.